Hi everyone, I'm Mo from Off by Heart Style. Today I'm going to do a wrap-up of Contemporary A Thon. So this whole week I've been reading books that are obviously contemporary books for a reading challenge, and for the most part I've been pretty successful with my goal, but there was a couple of surprises, so let's get into it. So for the Contemporary A Thon, these are the books that I ended up completing. Well, actually, with the exception of one. There was one book that I did not actually finish reading, but the others I definitely did. So I'm just going to talk really briefly about them. And yeah, let's go from there. So I'll start off with the first book at the top of my little pile here, which is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. So this was the one I kind of read the day before Contemporary A Thon officially began, referring to my other video. And I kind of read it early because I was really excited to get into it, and I just didn't think I would finish it fast enough. I figured I would still have plenty of it to read once we actually officially hit Contemporary A Thon, but funny enough, I finished it in a day or so. It was a decent read. I would probably put it at like a 4-star, maybe a 3.5 star, so not that it wasn't a good book, and not that Alice is not a great writer, but I kind of didn't connect to this as much as I would have liked. I've had more time to kind of think about it during the week, and it was good, but I definitely have read stuff from Alice that I have fallen completely head over heels in love with. This one was just a good, solid, decent read. The main premise is that there is a girl that is listening to a YouTube podcast, and she loves it, by the name of Universe City, and the host of the podcast is by the name of Radio Silence. She does fan art on the side and depicts, you know, different types of scenes that play into the whole podcast, and definitely she does fan art about Radio Silence himself. Lo and behold, he gets in contact with her and offers her a job and a role within the podcast to create fan art, and then a whole entire adventure begins. So it's actually a really solid read, but not my favorite from Alice Oseman. There are other works from her that I really love and enjoy, and once I get those novels in, because I technically order them, I'm going to definitely talk about it in another video. But there is stuff from her back catalog that I really love. So that is Radio Silence. Next is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. This was probably one of my favorite reads from the entire Contemporary A Thon. It was surprisingly really emotional. The main character is Pablo. Basic synopsis for this is Pablo is having a hard time in his life. He's kind of dealing with a lot on his plate, a lot of student debt, a lot of credit card debt, and he had to drop out of NYU. He currently works in a bodega in New York City, happens to have a clandestine meeting with a global pop star who has a backstory that's, you know, kind of similar to real life pop star Selena Gomez. But there's a lot of similarities between those two, the characters. But anyways, they meet, and then spark starts to fly, and then it becomes a whole new adventure. A lot of this book explores themes of mental health, and it just explores a lot in family dynamic. I really thought Pablo's relationship with his father was really well done. Overall, this was an extremely emotional read for me. I filmed the video earlier this week where I talked about it more in depthly. It was just a really solid 4.5 star read. I had a couple of quibbles about the portrayal of the pop star, Lena Smart, but overall I did really like it and enjoyed it a lot. Next is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was also a really solid read for me. Not quite 5-star for me. This one's kind of in the middle. I would put it again at the sliding scale of 3.5 to 4-star. Solid read. Elizabeth is obviously extraordinarily talented as a writer. The Poet X was extraordinary work from her, and it's obviously really well beloved. I'm pretty sure it's still like in the top 10 of the New York Times bestsellers, and with good reason. This one, again, was a really solid read, but I did think it was a little bit long. I think it probably could have been cut down by 100 pages or so. Imani is the main character in this story. She is a teenage girl that is also a teenage mom, and she's kind of juggling life of being a caretaker and a present mom, also while juggling school, while also having dreams of becoming a world-class chef. So one day she gets a chance of a lifetime to be in a class that strictly is about culinary arts, and it's just about her time learning her skill set, becoming better of a chef, and it's also balancing her work life plus school life plus issues with her baby daddy, plus falling in love with a new transfer student that happens to come into the school year and happens to also wind up magically in her cooking class as well. It was a really lovely read. Elizabeth, really talented writer. There was a couple of moments here and there that kind of dragged for me a little bit, but overall I did like it. There's also some incredible food descriptions in this book, so if you're someone that's a foodie, you probably really love and enjoy this book. I can't believe I said the word foodie. Ugh. Anyways, whatever. It's just a really solid read. It goes more into her Afro-Latina heritage as well, which is really lovely as far as representation. One of her best friends is also, I believe, lesbian, and she has her girlfriend, and it's just a really sweet relationship, and her friend just happens to be ride or die for Imani as well. You know, her grandmother, her grandmother, and I would call her like her best friend too, just was really great as far as the familial aspect. There was a couple of side characters here and there that were kind of annoying. Her baby daddy was annoying. Her baby daddy's mother was really annoying. There is that stereotypical, you know, bad girl that has conflicts with her, which I really don't think was needed. I think there was a lot of conflicts just in the amount of work that Imani had to do in her life, and you know, sometimes you just wish she would get a break, and it was just really tough for her. But I really admired her spirit, admired how hardworking she was, and just what a great character she was overall. So it was a solid read. Did have some critiques about it, but by no means did I dislike it, and it probably won't be the last Elizabeth Acevedo book that I do read. So there's that. So what was originally supposed to be my last and final read for Contemporary A Thon was Donna Tartt and the Secret History. This book is definitely dark in tone. I suspected it would be, because literally the synopsis talks about corruption and betrayal and obsession going into evil, and it's about these really eccentric 6 college students that are in Vermont, and they have this really elitist, really eccentric, quirky Greek professor, and it is just lovely in its prose, and it's definitely different in a good way, but I also find it really, really intensive. It's also over 500 plus pages, and I found it really dense, and I knew once I started getting into it that there was no way I was going to finish in time for the end of this readathon. I'm at page 210 right now, actually, and it's definitely a book I'm going to have to take more time with, so I have shelved it for now. We're going to be heading into October Suit anyways, which is definitely a darker time for darker reads, so I might pick this up back in mid-October, later October, to kind of fit in with the overall theme of darker, spookier reads, and I might try some other readathons going forward. We'll see. But I did end up benching this, so I can't really give a score or a rating for it overall, but it's definitely a denser read, and it definitely requires a lot more of my attention, so it's going to take me some time to get through this. So in place of that, I decided to go for a contemporary, and to my foolish heart, I thought it would be a lighter contemporary. I chose A Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker to actually fill in the spot for The Secret History. Now, I have a really funny kind of backstory with this book. I originally had it in ebook a lot earlier this year, and I originally DNF'd it. I didn't really like it, didn't like the romantic interest of the main character, and their back and forth really irritated me, and I didn't give the book a really fair chance. It could have been a mood thing as well. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood to read this kind of novel at the time period that I end up purchasing it. In addition, this book does deal with cancer and dealing with cancer within a parental figure, because the main premise of the story is that Calla Fletcher, she is a city girl that lives in Toronto. You know, she works a 9 to 5 in the office. She has like a style blog with her best friend. She's all about the glitz and the glamour. She ends up getting a call from back from Alaska, where her and her mom originally were with her dad, but her and her mother end up moving to Toronto, and her mom and her dad end up separating. But her dad stayed in Alaska, is a bush pilot. In any case, she ends up getting a call finding out that her dad is really sick and he's been diagnosed with lung cancer. So then she has to make the choice to go back to Alaska and tie things up and kind of rekindle their relationship, because the way things were, they were pretty stilted. So I have a hard time sometimes reading with books that touch on cancer and other disabling diseases and fatal diagnoses. So I was just in a weird headspace, I guess, when I first read this. And again, I didn't really like the love interest that much that was in the book. But for whatever reason, I decided to pick this one back up, and it kind of fits into one of the challenges as far as plant life or greenery that's on the cover. So I decided to pick it back up and end up loving it so much so that I think I'm going to do a separate video right after this one. But this ended up turning out to be a 5-star read for me. And now you'll see that I have a physical copy of it as well. So I did a complete 180 on my original feelings from this. So it definitely was a surprise for me, but I'm really happy that I picked it back up, gave it another chance. Really enjoyed it to the point I might actually pick up another K.A. Tucker book. Not too sure yet. I have a couple of other contemporary / romance novels that I still have yet to read, and I guess I'll go from there, but definitely this was a surprise for me. So overall, I think the Contemporaryathon was successful for me. Finished at least 4 books, which is great. Got 1 book that's kind of on hold, which is unfortunate, but it is a good novel, and I'm definitely looking forward to tackling it more in the future. Maybe October, which is literally around the corner anyways. So that's my wrap up. I hope you enjoyed me talking about it for a little bit. I'm gonna flash off my unicorn mug here. Take a sip. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and till the next video. Bye!